My name is Trina Pollard, and I'm lucky enough to be the CEO of Actsafe Safety Association. I've been here for about 3.5 months, and am very grateful for this wonderful team that I've inherited. I'm going to be telling you a little bit more about Actsafe later on in the session, but for now, I would like to kick it off and say that we are joined this morning by WorkSafeBC, one of our partners, who has prepared a customized rate consultation for BC's arts and entertainment industries. In this webinar, you're going to learn about how to improve your organization's safety performance, save money on your annual premiums, understand more about the injury trends in your industry and how you can target those to help prevent injuries, illnesses, and deaths in your workplace. And learn how Actsafe can help you and all the different resources that are out there to make it easy and accessible for you to act on your safety performance. So following the presentation, there will be a question and answer period. I'll be moderating the questions today, so please feel free to add your questions or comments to the chat, which you should be seeing probably in a bar at the bottom of your screen. I'll be keeping an eye on those, and every once in a while, I'll be asking them on your behalf. In this session, we are welcome and joined by Erica Lee, the Manager of Classification and Rate Modification for WorkSafeBC, as well as Allison Jones, our brand new Manager of Occupational Health and Safety, Consultation and Education Services, who focuses on supporting our industry, the arts and entertainment industry. So Erica, without further ado, I will pass the webinar over to you to take from here.
Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you so much, Trina. I'm just going to turn on my camera to say hi to everyone before I turn it off and then share my screen. So my name is Erica Lee. I am the Manager of Classification and Rates team in assessments at WorkSafeBC, and I'm joined here today with our Director of Assessments, Howard Chang, and our Senior Manager of Insurance and Underwriting, Jerry Paquette. So they are in the audience with us today. So again, thanks for giving us the opportunity to share some information about the 2023 rates. Our team looks after the classification and rate structure here at WorkSafe, and also in partnership with our finance and a couple other departments, we every year put together and prepare the rates for the following year. So that being said, I'm just going to turn off my camera and share my screen here. So if you have any questions, Jennifer, you can just stop me and ask away. Let me know if you can't see my screen. Just give me one moment here. All right. Okay, so that being said, everyone okay, see my screen?
I can't see your screen, Erica.
Oh, you can. Okay, one second. Let me just stop sharing. Give me 1 second and let me try again. So technical difficulties here, but bear with me for 1 minute. And I hope you can see it now.
Yeah, looking good.
Perfect. All right, well, thank you very much for your patience. So before we dive into the presentation, I'm going to provide some high-level overview of our key results that led to the upcoming 2023 rates. We're talking about 2021 results because 2021 is the last full year that of results that goes into and influence the 2023 rate calculation. Now, keep in mind that any claim cost performance that has dramatically changed in 2022 will have no impact to the 2023 rate. So looking at the 2021 injury rate, which is called the time loss claim rate now, we are seeing a 2.23 claims affected per 103 years of employment. Now, when we take a look at the return to work rate, we're seeing almost 80% of workers returning to work within 26 weeks. These are the key drivers of the cost rate. And another thing that we look at is investments. So in terms of our investments, our 2021 results of 12.7% have exceeded a required rate of 7.1%. and is also above the investment benchmark, policy benchmark of 10%. So this really shows that we have a solid long-term investment. Now, looking at the 2023 preliminary average industry base rate, it is remaining flat at 1.55%, which has been the same since 2018. Please keep in mind that this is the average industry base rate, and it's derived by taking an average of all the rates we have in our classification system. And now look for this slide, what we're referring to here, we're still referring to the average base rate. So the story here is that the green line, which is the average base rate, has been consistently below the blue line, which is the average cost rate. And that's the case since 2007. This indicates that favorable investment returns have discounted rates below the cost of the system since 2007. Now, looking at the overall chart, we're starting to see that there are higher costs that have not been seen since 2015. And prior to 2015, you have to go all the way back to 2004 to find cost rate that was higher. Now, despite these cost trend concerns, the 2022 average base rate still remains flat, and it's been unchanged for 6 years now. Although the average base rate is remaining flat, that doesn't mean that all industry insurance rates are staying the same. For 2023, we're seeing 50% of firms receiving a base rate decrease, 37% of firms are seeing an increase, and 13% is remaining unchanged. Now, this slide gives an overview of WorkSafeBC's insurance model and how our classification units are built up into rate groups for the purpose of rate setting. Each classification unit represents one or more of the industries operating in BC. Firms are then placed together with their peers and competitors into one or more of those industry classification units. Most industries, though, are not large enough for us to calculate the insurance rate. Those that are large enough become their own independent rate group, while smaller industries are gathered into industry groups. We then place each industry group into the rate group band that matches their clean cost rate. There are 20 rate group bands that cover all industry risk profiles, and this slide shows you the range for each of those bands. And it's at the rate group level that we set the base rate. Now, there are many factors involved in establishing a base rate, but primarily it must allow for costs of claims and any future liabilities associated with those claims to be covered. So therefore, it's reasonable to think that classification units with higher risk will see a higher base rate. So now that we've spoken about the classification rate system, as well as the overall average base rate, let's take a look at the CUs that are specific to Actsafe. When we take a look at the payroll distribution for Actsafe, we see that the majority of the payroll is generated from the motion picture, commercial, or television CU. With organizing, conducting special events, live performance venue, and performing arts totaling less than 10% of the overall payroll. And before we dive into the individual CUs of Actsafe, I do want to let you know that all 4 CUs are seeing a decrease to their base rate. Now let's start off with the motion picture, commercial, or television production CU. This classification unit is its own independent rate group, and that's rate group JE for 2023. So for 2023, it will be the only CU in the rate group. So they are in a separate rate group because their cost profiles are different than the other CUs. Costs have been increasing for the CU since 2020. However, the 2023 base rate is expected to be lower than the cost rate. Now that's due to the surplus in investment returns. So that's how we're able to deliver a base rate that is lower than the cost rate. So previously, the performing arts and photography studio classification units were also part of this rate group JE, but those CUs have moved to rate group 4. So like I mentioned before, it is the CU is the only CU remaining in this rate group. Now taking a look at the next 2 CU, you'll see that both organizing, conducting special events, and live performance venue are residing in rate group band 4 for 2023. Now, while the cost rate has increased for 2023, the charge rate has decreased. And it's expected to be lower than the cost rate primarily due to the lower industry funding levy. We'll go into the industry funding levy shortly, but let's take a look at the very last CU of this group. So performing arts, as I mentioned earlier, performing arts has moved to a lower risk rate group in 2023 from rate group JE to rate group band 4. And the charge rate decrease is reflective of the CU's transition to the lower base rate band. So further decreases are expected in future years as transitioning continues. Now, I just want to let you know, performing arts has moved into the rate group or industry group that is the same industry group as organizing, conducting special events, and live performance venue. And now let's take a look at Actsafe's industry funding levy. So for 2023, there is a significant decrease of industry funding in the amount charged to the 2023 rate, and that led to a much lower levy. So we do calculate the levy based on projected budgets and payroll. And since payrolls are much higher than projected in 2021 and 2022, the excess levy revenue projected at the end of 2022 is being used to offset the 2023 levy. So the COVID-19 pandemic has been an extraordinary time for a province, and we've taken this into consideration into the rate setting process. In forecasting that 2023 cost rates, we're making the assumption that there will be no COVID-19 claims in 2020 and 2023. Any direct COVID-19 claim costs are excluded in the calculation of the firm's experience rating calculation. However, the cost of actual COVID-19 claims, it will be funded over a 5-year period through the amortization rate and will remain within the rate group at the base rate level. So far, we've talked about the base rate. I just want to share a bit more information about the experience rating program, which is really an avenue for firms to have an impact on their individual net rate. So experience rating looks at firms' claim costs, which is the total payments on claims, in relation to the size of its workforce, so the payroll, and we use that to calculate a ratio. We then compare the firm's claim cost to payroll ratio to that of the rate group. And the rate group is the level at which we calculate the insurance rate. So if a firm has a ratio less than its rate group, it is performing better than the average and will move towards a discount. If a firm has a ratio higher than its rate group, it's performing worse than the average and will be moving towards a surcharge. Now, there are a number of factors or dampening measures we apply to the experience rating calculation, and that's explained through a policy AP 52471. And this includes the 3-year weighted window, where we put most weight in the most recent year of the 3-year window. So for 2023, for the 2023 rates, 2022, which is right now, is the year of calculation. And the 3-year window is going to look at the 2021, 2020, and 2019 years. This is so that the rate is more reflective of the current realities. Another measure that we have is the participation level. And for instance, with the participation level, larger firms will have more weight placed on the current reality, so the 3-year window, whereas smaller firms, we put more weight on the history. And that's so that a single claim won't create huge volatility for a small firm. Which leads us to the next measure, which is the capping of claims cost. And that's, again, to ensure that we provide rate stability. So in terms of, so with the experience rating, the primary purpose is to incentivize and reward health and safety in the workplace by offering discounts, but also surcharge off of a firm's base rate based on the firm's safety records over time. Firms have the opportunity to earn a discount up to 50%, but also see a surcharge up to 100%. So of the CUs that we talked about, the 4 CUs we talked about today, there's 393 employers, and to date there's only 4 firms that are seeing a surcharge in this group. Now, we have received feedback from employers that they would like to receive earlier notification of their preliminary net rates for financial planning purposes. Most employers will be seeing their 2023 preliminary net rates available through online services as early as next week. In addition, we'll also be sending emails to almost all employers again next week to notify that their preliminary ARNs will be available for viewing. So if you haven't done so already, please ensure that you sign up for online services. On that note, I'm going to turn the floor over to Allison.
Trina here. I just wanted to jump in and ask, does anyone have any questions so far? If so, please add them to the chat and I can ensure that they're addressed. Okay, Allison. Oh, here we go. Can we get a copy of the slide deck? We are recording this, so the recording will be posted on our YouTube channel, and an email will be going out to all attendees with a link to that. Any other questions? Okay, great. Over to you, Allison.
Great, thank you. Hi, everyone. As Trina mentioned off the top, I'm Allison Jones. I'm a brand new manager in Consultation and Education Services at WorkSafeBC, and I'm excited I get to support this industry. So this is my first month, and I'm happy to be able to introduce myself to some of you through this presentation. So I think Erica is going to be driving the slides for me, so we can go on to that. I'll be starting with just a quick snapshot of some of the what we've been seeing in injuries in the last little while. And similar to Eric, I'm going to preserve my bandwidth and just turn my video off for the moment. So yes, before we dive into how you can influence your WorkSafeBC premiums, I'm just going to walk through a quick snapshot of recent injuries. So on this slide, the injury rate, it's showing injury rates. The injury rate across the entire province for all workplaces, which is the blue line, has held steady for quite some time at about 2.2 time loss claims per 1,000 person years. You can see the green line, which is representing the motion picture classification unit, has also been staying relatively steady over the last several years and is just above the provincial average. Organizing and conducting special events, performing arts, and live performance venues have been below the provincial average for the last several years, but unsurprisingly saw a drop in 2020. However, special events, the orange line has started to show a bit of a move back up in 2021. So on the next slide, just again, a little snapshot of the claims costs over the last few years in each of the classification units, so separated out. As you can see on the bottom there, they've been color coded. Claims costs claims paid in the motion picture classification unit had been at or just above the $12 million mark for several years, but rose to $15.5 million in 2021. Claims costs in special events, live performance venues, and performing arts have been less than $1 million per year over the last several years. On the next slide, we're showing just a picture of what the workdays lost due to these injuries look like. So for example, highlighting the most recent year, 2021, in the motion picture industry, we saw 35,000 days lost. For special events, 360 days. For live performance venues, 42 days. And for performing arts, 169 days. Once we start to dig in a little bit more on the next slide, if we look at the type of incidents that are driving these claims, and this is for all the classification units together, in 2021, more than a quarter were related to overexertion, 18% were where someone was struck by something, 11% were from a fall on the same level, which usually means tripping, 10% were falls from elevation, so falling from a height, and just over 8% were instances where someone struck against something. And the remainder are various accident types. When we look at those same claim costs, what we see is that overexertion still takes up a big part of the pie. So still nearly a quarter of what was paid. But there is an accident type that actually didn't make the top 5 in terms of number of incidents, but it does make the top 5 in terms of cost. And that is incidents related to motor vehicles, which is accounting for 5.8% of the claims costs. On the next slide, we've got a little bit about what occupations, who's getting hurt, and the vast majority of those are in support occupations, followed by those in technical roles, carpenters, and transport drivers. Those groups alone, which I'm sure account for a varied number of different types of occupations and positions within them, particularly the support occupations, but they actually account for 75% of all the injuries within these classification units. So I know that was a very, very quick, very high level tour through some of the recent injury information, but coming up later in the presentation, I will be talking about where you can source much of this information for yourself with more precision, actually, even than I was able to share with you today. So that is coming up.
Allison, can we take a pause and answer some questions, please? Can you hear me?
Yep, I can hear you. Yeah.
Great. So one question is, overexertion and struck by include PA, so I'm not sure if that means performing arts or production assistants or what, carrying, handling, and deploying tents and garbage. Is this correct, production assistants? So I think that, do you want to take that, Allison, around what types of injuries or incidents are resulting in overexertion and struck by?
Yeah, and I'll start with the struck by. Often the struck by is and could absolutely include production assistance. And the struck by is often includes being struck by mobile equipment or possibly struck by someone else moving some equipment. Overexertion, we often see our strains and sprains being captured there. And that's something that when I get through in a later slide, I'll be able to highlight some of the ways that you can look at data and match those up with body parts and nature of injury, which gives you a bit more information about what's included in that category.
Thanks. And any of my team members from the industry, Dawn, Will, or Natalie, feel free to add some examples to the chat to help provide additional examples of what the trends you are seeing in the performing arts and motion picture industry. We have another question, and that is, I would appreciate a little information at any time throughout this presentation. I'm a sole proprietor, and as an owner-operator, I am incorporated as a business, and I'm classified in the motion picture industry. I have never had a claim, and I'm not sure of my current rate. I know I do get a discount, but I am classified with much larger companies with multiple employees. I have never felt that this is right, and I'm curious why there is not subcategories for people like myself, because there must be many of us out there. So I think this is more a question for Erica or Jerry.
I can take that question. So as I mentioned earlier, we do look at, or when we look at experience rating, which is where individual employers can have an impact on their rate, we really take the claims cost to payroll ratio, and then we compare that to the rate group. So if your payroll is much lower, which is one individual, like I mentioned, we take a ratio, so it is comparative with when we take the claims cost and payroll ratio of the group. So where you can see their rate, that's where you can log into online services, and you'll get to see basically the annual rate notifications, what kind of claims are driving, what kind of claims are driving, or if you don't have any claims, you can kind of take a look at and see what the ratios are for your rate group in comparison to yours. So online services is really a great tool to see like where you stand amongst your competitors. I do understand it is one, so that the industry as a whole, there are other ones where there's probably much lower or much smaller firms as well. But you can kind of take a look at the comparisons with others in your rate group. If you have further questions, please don't hesitate to send us an email to either Actsafe, they can pass it on to us, and we can do a deeper dive or further explanation in regards to your classification assignment. So I hope that answered your question.
Thank you. Another sort of classification related question is, as each employer studio network may re-incorp each project, would they be returned to the base rate? So I think this, I'm not totally clear on what that question is asking, but I think it might be a little bit around, I guess, that they're a little bit around the experience rating.
Yeah, I can take that answer, Trina. It's Jerry Piquet here, if you can hear me.
Yep, yeah, we can.
Okay, so WorkSafeBC, when we register employers, and likewise when we do the experience rating for employers, because I do believe this question is related to experience rating as you were suggesting, Trina, we, according to the Act, consider that the owners and operators of an entity are responsible for workplace health and safety. And so for most companies that have longevity, the experience rating is a natural result of their ongoing experience. When we look within the film production industry, particularly when you're looking at series, our experience has been that with each new year, there's a new legal entity. There may in fact be different production people, different people that are engaged in making that production come to life. And as a result, in many cases, there just isn't that continuity of the guiding mind, the legal entity, and therefore experience rating cannot transfer from one legal entity to the next. That said, we are always open to any employer presenting to us an argument where there is a continuity of that guiding mind for the purpose of workplace health and safety, and we will examine whether experience rating can transfer. Where experience rating cannot transfer, there just is no basis with which to then consider whether that new entity is better than everyone else or not as good as everyone else. And if we can't consider either of those, then by default, yes, we return that to base rate.
Thank you, Jerry. There's another question related to injury trends, and I'm not sure if anyone's going to be able to answer that today, but I'm picking up that maybe a webinar specific to that and spending a little bit more time diving deep around industry trends might be useful, but I'll ask it anyways, and Allison will see if you've got access to this data. Not sure if you do, but data on overexertion. Is there a correlation between hours worked and injury? Injuries occurring at the 15th plus hour of work or after days of long hours. So perhaps a fatigue related question. Does anyone have access to data on fatigue in our industry or long work hours and whether there is a correlation?
And yes, apologies, that's not information I have at hand specific to the overexertion injuries that we were talking about, say for 2021. And to look at that, we would need to look at and whether or not we had that information available of, did that injury occur when the person was in their, their 12th hour, in their 13th hour? Generally speaking, I can say that yes, it is well known that fatigue, both mental and physical fatigue, does increase the risk of injury. So that there could be a correlation there, but yeah, there would have to be some deep data mining to see if there's a correlation and something that's been seen in this industry specifically.
Okay, thanks. And so will Dawn or Natalie, do any of you have anything to add with regards to injury trends that you are noticing in the motion picture or performing arts industry? What occupations it's happening to, why, what is the actual work that they're doing that are resulting in either overexertion injuries or slips, trips, and falls? Dawn, I can unmute you. I believe I can allow you to talk. So over to you, Dawn, to add some of your insights. And then Natalie, I can send it over to you as well to add yours after Dawn's finished speaking.
Well, hello, everybody. Don Parman here, manager for the performing arts side of Actsafe. Yes, I can speak to this. First of all, anecdotally, on the exertion side, over the 15-hour, 100%. There's a correlation. The data, I have seen some data, I don't have it handy, but there is some data available which I reviewed previously that does show that. As far as injuries and what's happening on the fatigue side right now, and this part of this is specific to the reopening after COVID, riggers, loaders, and flymen are experiencing a lot of, how much of it's being reported, I don't know, but they're experiencing a lot of discomfort and strains because they haven't done it in 2 years. So those are things that we're keeping an eye on and trying to track, and we will be talking to WorkSafe about keeping an eye on those specific things. Those are things we are hearing on almost a daily basis. Whenever we're out talking to people, that is a very real thing.
Thank you, Dawn. So Natalie or Will, anything to add, or shall we move on?
I don't have anything else to add. I think it is part of the process to be investigated as well. So,
okay. I think I will, if there's interest, I can definitely schedule another webinar where we can go even deeper into these claims and look at the injury trends to support the industry and targeting the issues that are high risk and really contributing to rates and serious injuries and that sort of thing. So we will move on, and I will give it back to you, Allison.
Great, thank you. So we did promise that we talk a little bit about how you can influence your WorkSafeBC premiums. Essentially, it boils down to two main methods. You can prevent injuries, and you can decrease time loss through effective return to work programs. So on the next slide, just got a little bit of information, the big picture about what protecting workers and preventing injuries, and some of the key focus areas that should include. Of course, if you're preventing an injury from occurring in the first place, then you don't need to manage a return to work. Health and safety is, healthy and safe workplaces are better for you in a number of ways. Of course, saving on your WorkSafeBC premiums is just one of those, but it can also impact things like your worker retention, your morale, productivity, and your organization's reputation. And of course, healthy and safe workplaces are better for workers in that they're not getting hurt. So some of the key overall steps that need to be taken to improve health and safety in the workplace are to proactively understand the hazard and risks in your workplace, implement control measures, practices, and policies that reduce risk, and monitor the effectiveness of those actions and update them as needed. So on the next slide, we've got we did want to highlight some tools that WorkSafe has released within this last year that can help you to proactively look at those hazards and risks. The first one is a very short 2 pages called Basics of Risk Management, and it outlines the 4 steps to a healthy and safe workplace. It's a concise, easily digestible resource on risk management, and it's meant really for employers of any size. Creating and managing a healthy and safe workplace is a comprehensive primer on basic health and safety planning and management for employers and joint committees, and it shows how the elements of a health and safety program are instrumental in helping to manage risks. The last resource that we wanted to highlight is called Creating a Key Risk Inventory for Your Workplace. This resource outlines how to engage your workers and work together through a process that will identify the key risks in each area of your workplace and to help determine which controls might need improvement. So on the next slide, I did want to mention that to feed those hazard assessments and those risk control measures that you're putting in place, sure, many of you already know, but you've got 2 powerful tools at your disposal, and that's your people and data. Regarding the first one, your people, we know that workplaces where staff are actively engaged in health and safety are safer. For the workers to truly be engaged in that health and safety, they need to know that their employers, their supervisors, and their organization value their well-being and input. So one of the ways that that can be built is to foster effective health and safety committees where they're required. And effective committees have senior management engagement and support. A good balance of people from across the organization are sitting at that health and safety committee table. And those committees have clearly established procedures and terms of reference. So to help ensure that you're getting the most from your committees, WorsafeBC.com has an evaluation tool that can be used to review committee effectiveness. Okay, so regarding that second powerful tool that's at your disposal, you can also access a wealth of information through WorksafeBC's shared data. So right on WorsafeBC.com, you can find information about your industry's safety performance. We have applications there about when and how serious injuries are occurring in your industry, or which issues are seen more frequently by our inspectors. This can help give you a sense of the likely issues at your workplace, especially since much of the information can be searched by classification unit. Our interactive tools link under the shared data area on WorsafeBC.com has lots to explore. One of the key ones of interest that I like to highlight is the provincial overview report, which includes the last 10 years of data and is searchable by classification unit. So you can get a little bit more specificity. It has accident types, sources of injury, nature of injury, the body parts injured, claims costs, occupations, worker age ranges, and much more that you can dig into. So the diagram on the slide is just one of very many examples of the different reports and tables of information that you're able to get from those shared data resources online. For the provincial overview report, the one I wanted to highlight in particular, that report currently includes data up to 2020, but we are expecting the 2021 data to be available early next month. To even build further on the specificity, we also have something that's available to many firms through your online account. It's an interactive tool that gives you an overview of your company's health and safety performance. It is targeted at larger employers with at least 5 claims or more per calendar year. Those claims information helps to drive the resources and tools available as part of this, what we call the Employer Health and Safety Planning Toolkit. So if the toolkit is available to you, you are one of those employers who've had 5 or more claims per calendar year. It gives you easy access to your company's data to see injuries and claims that drive your costs. Has various drill down features that help enable you to take specific actions or target specific things. and shows you how improving your health and safety performance will impact your assessment rate. So you can play around with the numbers and see if you drive your injury rate down, how it'll impact potentially future assessment rates. Oh, I think, Jerry, did you want to comment on that?
Yeah, just with respect to the Employer Health and Safety Planning Toolkit, it kind of ties into that prior question that was asked regarding the experience rating and return to base rate. The Employer Health and Safety Planning Toolkit will only be able to acquire the data associated with a particular account at WorkSafeBC. And so for those operations that resurrect themselves annually as a different legal entity, unless there has been that continuity of ownership and operation that enables the transfer of experience rating, that new legal entity will not have access in the Employer Health and Safety Planning Toolkit to the data or the experience, claims experience, et cetera, of prior entities. So just want to put that out there in terms of expectation management.
Yeah, thanks, Jerry. Yeah, important point that you'll only be able to use that if, yes, you've got that few years of data built up. So just on this employer toolkit, if that is something that you're interested in using, there are video overviews of the application available on WorksafeBC.com, and you can sign up to use it through your online account and get access again to your specific data, which is one of those powerful tools at your disposal. Just in case anyone's not aware, you can sign up for your account if you don't have one already, right on our home landing page at WorksafeBC.com. It's in the upper right corner. And in addition to the toolkit I mentioned on the previous slide, the online account will give you access to more personalized health and safety tools and applications, as well as the ability to submit various forms to WorkSafe online. I did want to mention that we also have health and safety resources specific to different industries, as well as a vast library of more general resources. But for the specific industries, arts and entertainment is one of the categories and includes resources under the subheadings of motion picture and television production, and then performing arts. And those are available by clicking through from our homepage to the health and safety section. To help you further with managing health and safety in your workplace, we are also developing more self-help tools to guide you through things like risk assessment processes and incident investigations. One of these is a new incident investigation report form wizard. It's now available, and it can help guide you through the incident investigation process. It has embedded best practice advice as you move through it. So it's a great resource to test out. Your online account homepage is now also mobile, letting you use it easily wherever you are. And one final plug for some of our prevention resources. WorkSafeBC has one of the largest collections of health and safety resources, tools, and applications in North America. We have over 2,500 print resources, 440 videos, and 80 interactive resources. Almost 1,000 of these health and safety resources are translated and available in more than 20 languages. All of this is aimed, of course, at helping you prevent injuries in the workplace, and we are continually producing new items. If you haven't already, there's opportunity to sign up for various health and safety e-news blasts, which would give you ongoing notification about our new releases. So I've been talking about injury prevention tools and some of the resources specifically that WorkSafe offers you. And while it's important to remember that prevention is job one, if an injury does occur, another way to improve your performance and control your costs is by providing early and safe recover at work and return to work opportunities through a respectful and supportive process. So just to put a bit of a context to that on our next slide, which is a pretty straightforward one. Simple message: longer claims cost more. But the costs aren't linear, they're exponential. And these costs, as an example, are just representing the direct cost. For an employer, workplace injuries, of course, can lead to things like poor worker morale, staff shortages, reduced productivity, delayed production times, and they can also negatively impact organizational reputations. And of course, for the person who's suffered an injury, longer claims can negatively affect their overall physical and mental health beyond the initial injury, to the point where a workplace injury could permanently affect their ability to contribute to their job, family, and community. So what do we want to do in terms of a return to work process? Well, one key point I wanted to mention today is that you don't need for WorkSafeBC to adjudicate the claim before you begin the return to work process. There is a return to work opportunity in the very early days of the claim, in the 0 to 4 weeks mark. It's this period that WorkSafeBC is still busy gathering information needed to adjudicate the claim. And you can take action while that information gathering phase is going on. So we encourage employers to support their injured workers in the early days of the injury by focusing on what they can do instead of what they can't, and to make an offer of modified duties. We know many organizations do this now for non-work related injuries, but it can be done for work injuries as well. Again, don't have to wait for WorkSafeBC to initiate the process. Overall, it's keeping the worker connected to the workplace and being supportive, and really, as much as you're able to, make that offer of modified duties. So when an injury does happen, what overall should you be aiming for with respect to recover and return to work programs? Well, at the time of injury, get involved and provide support. As soon as the injury occurs, you want to know, and that's something to reinforce with your workers. You want to ensure that your workers know to report injuries to their supervisors and to seek first aid on site. Early reporting by the worker, along with your Recover at Work knowledgeable supervisors, getting them involved early, are key to a proactive approach. Having modified work available that will allow the worker to continue to work safely within their functional abilities, and having some information about that beforehand, and knowing what some of the what that modified work could look like is a key to that proactive approach. Part of this could be considering having an injured worker package that can be offered to the person on the day of the injury. The package should include all the information the worker needs to know about the process and what they can expect from it. You do want to ask the worker to call teleclaim, our WorkSafeBC teleclaim, and get them to register their claim right away. For strains and sprains in particular, you can encourage physiotherapy assessment. Physiotherapists can provide you and the worker with meaningful information to assist you in determining there's appropriate modified and alternate work duties. Make sure that you send the modified work offer with the worker when they go to see this physio or their physician. It's important that the medical practitioner knows what kind of work is being offered when they are meeting with the injured worker. You want to make sure that you're submitting your claim Form 7 information, your employer's report of injury, to WorkSafeBC, and make sure that you indicate where you have those modified duties and that an offer has been made to the worker. You can include a copy of those modified duty offers with your Form 7. And lastly, you want to show support and stay connected with the injured worker throughout their recovery and their return to work. We do have a variety of recover and return to work online tools available again, at WorksafeBC.com. These include templates, guides, videos, and information sheets. So lots of good information there as well. I think we'll pause there for additional questions.
I think there is one more question here. There's a question about JOSH committees, Joint Occupational Health and Safety Committees. A joint committee annual report is not applicable to Movie of the Week productions or any other production that last month. Can you elaborate? Eric, or maybe Allison, could you describe when is a joint committee required in the workplace and anything to do with annual report requirements?
So if your workplace has 20 or more workers, you are required to have a joint health and safety committee. If your workplace has more than 9 but fewer than 20 workers, you'll need to have a worker health and safety representative. And that goes for any workplace where there are 10 or more workers employed at the workplace for longer than a month. There is a requirement for annual review of committees, but that doesn't mean you have to wait for a whole year to have passed. So if a production is wrapping up, it's a great time to still do a review so that you can determine if there was anything, lessons learned, things you want to do different, better, more efficiently next time.
Thank you. And one final question. Is Report Wizard for employers the employer incident investigation report form 7, or for workers 6A? So the Report Wizard.
Yeah, the Report Wizard I was mentioning was specifically for the investigation piece and not for the form 7 or the 6A, but to take you through the investigation piece.
Okay, another comment / question. Oh, sorry. First off, is that available now, the wizard?
Yes.
Okay, yes, it is. So final question, and then I think that I have just one slide and then we'll sign off. Thank you for the great information on reducing injuries, but unless you are a long-running TV series, I don't understand how you can have lower rates as you are with a new legal entity each show. If the industry as a whole improves base rates, could lower, or if the industry improves as a whole, base rates could lower, but I don't see how any of this could work, changing from legal entity to legal entity. I think that's more for Erica or Jerry.
Yeah, I can speak to that, and certainly there may be a barrier towards an individual legal entity being able to participate in WorkSafeBC's experience rating program and thereby pay a reduced insurance premium rate. That said, all employers that operate and work in British Columbia can participate in WorkSafeBC's Certificate of Recognition program. And while it does take time to actually qualify for that particular program, there may well be the opportunity to do that, and that offers a rebate against the premiums that legal entity did pay. So while it won't necessarily preclude you from paying the industry base rate, there is the opportunity for some financial recognition through WorkSafeBC for those firms that do enroll in and qualify for the Certificate of Recognition program.
Thanks, Jerry. And so Actsafe does not have the Certificate of Recognition program. However, that doesn't mean that the industry isn't able to participate in it. You can participate in it through choosing one of the other 12 industry health and safety associations. There's a similar organization just like us for agriculture, construction, etc. I think that the most naturally aligned for motion picture, performing arts, all of that would be to go through Go2HR, which is the Tourism and Hospitality Health and Safety Association. You can go on their website and learn more about CORE, and you can give them a call to learn about how you can save money and get rebates for your specific entity. Okay, so we've just got 2 minutes left. So if, Allison, if you could go to my final 2 slides. Yeah, so that one, I'll just spend a minute explaining how Actsafe is here to help. So you've heard a lot about all of the wonderful resources on WorkSafeBC's website. Actsafe is a not-for-profit health and safety association that specifically supports BC's arts and entertainment industry. So all of you that are on the webinar today, since 1998, we've been serving this industry, providing training, resources, services to employers, workers, supervisors, all with the vision of preventing workplace injuries, illnesses, and deaths in motion picture, TV, live event, performing arts, and everything in between. We currently have over 23 courses and workshops, which are free or highly subsidized and completely customized to your workplaces in this industry. On our website, you'll find over 500 resources, again, which are industry specific and free. They range from educational resources like information sheets or infographics to really practical checklists that now that you know what you're supposed to do or what you're able to do, we try and make it easier for you by giving you practical checklist templates and tools. We will also very soon be launching our app, so stay tuned for that. We have finally a free advisory service. So if you have any questions, you can contact our safety team. We have 4 safety professionals at on staff that can answer any of your questions related to the industry, and it's completely confidential. So you can be open and honest, ask us whatever your questions are, and we will do our absolute best to support you. You can call our general phone number, which I'll have on my final slide, or email one of our safety professionals. So we have 2 important dates coming up. We've got our annual conference, which happens in February every year. We have anywhere from 300 to 500 participants. So please stay tuned for that. We offer, it's either free or highly discounted and subsidized. Lots of education in there, and we hope to return in person. We also have what we call APE Week. It's an acronym, AIP, Actsafe Injury Prevention Week, and that's October 17th to 21st. We always choose a theme. This year it's going to be on emergency preparedness. So yes, of course, it's going to include the traditional topics of earthquakes and that sort of thing, but we're also going to be incorporating all of the trends that we've seen recently when it comes to emergencies, a pandemic, floods, extreme heat, fires. We also have websites. Through this Actsafe Injury Prevention Week, we're going to be having lots of webinars like we had today on these specific topics, resources, and then we have an Actsafe Safety Cafe, which is where our safety team goes in person to various different productions throughout the week to bring our services and education to you. So my final note is our Actsafe team is available Monday to Friday from 9 to 5 to help you. Please make note of this website and go to our website. You can find our phone number. Be sure to check out our social media channels. And if there's one thing that you do today, please subscribe to our e-newsletter so that you can get access to our app or any of our fresh new resources or invites to our conferences. You can do it easily by scanning this lovely QR code. So you just take your phone, go to your camera setting and put it up to the screen, and you should be able to go through the prompts to subscribe. So the email address for Performing Arts is to reach our safety advisors at Performing Arts is performingartssafety@actsafe.ca. And I believe for motion picture, it's motionpicturesafety@actsafe.ca. You can see them in I'll post them to the chat group. Does anyone have any final questions for me? You can also stay online and make requests. I'm currently designing a 3-year strategic plan and an annual business plan for next year. So I am very much open to hearing what we can do and what we can create to better serve you. So at any time, please feel free to pitch ideas to us through these email addresses or ask your questions. Thank you very much for joining us today. Have a wonderful afternoon and very sunny weekend. Be safe out there, hydrate.
Thanks for the opportunity, Trina.
Thanks and great meeting everyone virtually.